was in 1969 with Michael Palin. So let's put the old and the new together and see if there's any improvement.
What's all this, then?
Ladies and gentlemen, Britain's answer to the Lone Ranger, John Cleese. He seemed quite pleased to see you.
I was still recovering from the first American accent.
I'm just going to ask you, is the American accent any better, do you think?
Well, I thought the second one was the more American of the two.
Yeah. Why were you selected for this movie?
I've no idea.
Silverado?
I've absolutely no idea, except that a great friend of mine, Kevin Kline, was over in London about 12 months ago, and he was publicised, no, more than 12, 18 months ago, and he was publicising The Big Chill. And I went out to dinner with Larry Kasdan, who directed it, and we got on very well and laughed a lot. And 3 months later, this script arrived, literally came through the letterbox, fell on the floor, and I picked it up and thought, it was a Western. I leafed through it, and there was something about read Sheriff Langston. It said, Sheriff Langston entered. He is extremely tall and speaks with a British accent.
You think they wrote the part for you?
I think Larry actually did, but exactly why, I still don't know. But it was a wonderful...
Was it an ambition for you to be in a Western, to lead a posse? You lead a posse in this.
I should say yes, shouldn't I?
Please. No, you don't have to.
It has always been an ambition. No, it hasn't at all, actually. But it was just a wonderful chance to go over to Santa Fe and to have 3 weeks of absolutely free riding lessons, and then go off with a lot of proper American actors who really do know what they're doing, and play this tiny little part. I'm only on screen for about 10 minutes. And it was marvelous. And my only disappointment is that having spent 3 weeks on the riding lessons, and every time I was beginning to get the feel of a horse, the director would come along and say, he looks ridiculous on that horse, give him a bigger one. So I kept going up, and then there'd be this horrible brute, and I would just not master it, because they're what are called push-button ponies, you know, they're specially designed not to break actors, and they're incredibly obedient and easy to ride. But every time I just began to get the hang, he'd come in and say, no, give him a bigger one. So I finally got to ride in the movie, and I did lots of shots, including one when I was looking really good, and I thought, my God, I shall impress my daughter at last, you know? And none of it's in the movie. Every...
Stetson on the cutting room floor.
Every single riding shot is my double. Except one when I come up to the camera from about 12 feet away, you know, which, I mean, I could have done after I'd had my first lessons.
Do you like the Wild West? I mean, have you been a fan of cowboy movies?
No. I remember James Stewart and Where the River Bends, and that was about the last one I saw that interested me. I think they're very boring. Yeah. But this one is a bit different because he makes the characterization more interesting. But I find after a time that movies where people wear white hats if they're good and black hats if they're bad.
But Westerns are about that, aren't they? Clearly defined good.
Well, I'm not sure the best ones are, actually.
Yeah. Well, why would you class your part? You're a sheriff, but a pretty nasty piece of work, really.
Well, I think he's a guy who just found England a bit stuffy and went around the world and finally finished up in this town and liked it because the people were straightforward. Well, anyway, that was my rationalization.
And what about the clip from Monty Python we just did? Do you ever see the old gang now? Are they?
Well, it's rather sad, Terry. I mean, you know what's happened to them. 4 of them are in homes now. Terry.
Well, I was hoping you weren't going to mention
Well,
it.
I need to tonight. I mean, we've managed to keep it quiet for some time, but I'll explain why. I mean, Terry Jones isn't in a home, but he can't dress himself anymore. Michael Palin is stone deaf now, which it doesn't matter so much because he never listened to anyone anyway. Terry Gilliam is having psychotherapy because he has terrible delusions of competence. Just the last couple of years. It's very sad when you see people who've been very well liked at some stage, and the point is they cannot now support themselves in any way. And if people would be prepared to buy the Monty Python videos, it would be really for the best of all possible
As you say,
causes.
it's not for yourself that you wish them to.
Unfortunately, I don't need
No.
the money, Terry,
No.
no. But the nursing fees are horrendous.
Well, this is very selfless of you to come along and plug it in this way.
Well, I was asked if I would, and I said, fair
Yes,
enough.
but that
I mean,
you-
they've
it's
helped
you.
me in the past. You know,
It's-
they used to play
well,
the small parts.
Not
and-
much,
yep.
really, but
Not a great
held
deal,
you
no.
back more, really.
Well, yes, basically. But, not for the first 2 or 3 shows, but
Yeah.
later on, as you know, I left them behind. I said, I can't stand you.
Well, it's good of you to help. What about these Faulty Towers repeats we're enjoying at the moment? Are you surprised that Are you surprised that they're as big a success? I mean, the biggest ever audience, I think, for BBC Two when they showed
Yes,
it.
that's nice. I was very surprised when they were a success when they were first shown, because Connie and I thought that maybe 4.5 million people on BBC Two would like them, you know?
Yeah.
We really did, and I never thought that we'd get bigger figures than Python. I mean, I'd have been perfectly happy if we got half the figures that Python got. And we just did something that amused us, and we felt genuinely it was a very sort of quiet, private little thing that would appear in a nice corner of BBC Two, you know, and might be repeated once and forgotten. But after we'd done the first series, I began to see that they were infinitely more popular than I'd expected, although interestingly not in the first series, because people didn't really pick it up to the second series.
Do you thought of doing a Faulty film ever?
I thought about it at one stage, yes.
But you're not crazy about doing films anyway.
No, I'm not really. No, Connie had an idea for it, which was quite nice, about Basil going to Spain to stay in a hotel where there was a sort of Spanish Basil Fawlty in charge who treated him just as he treats his guests. And then we thought maybe the plane could get hijacked on the way to Spain and Basil would get so angry. He's already been at Heathrow for 36 hours, you know, that he actually overcomes the hijacker and becomes the hero of the day.
It's a pity you didn't do that, really.
Well, it would have been quite nice, but the trouble about films, as you probably gather, is I don't really enjoy them. For 20 years I've been doing them. And this summer I had a marvellous chance because I was actually sent one of the best scripts, if not the very best script I've ever seen by Michael Frayn. Terrific director Christopher Morahan did Jewel in the Crown. Some of the best actors and actresses in England, Penelope Wilton, Alison Steadman, Stephen Moore, you actually don't get any better than that. And the nicest crew, and I worked with some pretty good crews, but this was absolutely the best crew, and I still didn't quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I think I find it boring.
Did you find doing what sort of a reaction did you get to your recent party political broadcast? How did you feel about doing that?
Well, I was a bit nervous. I mean, no comic has ever showed his political sympathies before, and
it was very well received, wasn't it? You must have been pleased.
I got off lightly, actually. I thought I'd get a lot more flack than I did, but at the same time, it's not an unpopular issue. I mean, I didn't come out and say something.
On the other hand, I remember you saying to me the last time we talked that all politicians were in need of some kind of psychoanalysis.
Well, I met about 2 since that I think aren't. But I think on the whole, they're folks who do not look inside. And if you never look inside, it's very hard, really, to know exactly why you're doing things. But I don't think that, by and large, politicians as a breed are inclined to do that. And Robin Skinner and I wrote that book, sold 100,000.
Yes.
Not bad. Book about emotion in Britain.
You were probably putting in that plug for Robin Skinner more than for yourself there, right?
I am, really, yes. But Robin is going to go into a home shortly. I'm just surrounded by these people.
We've got an entire audience that are going to go into a home very soon. It's very nice to see you again, and how selfless of you. Good to see you, John.
Thank
please.
you for asking.
I think that's one of the boys.